If you're ever focusing on pronating, just forget about it and choose to focus on how fast you're. Hello guys, this is Coach Lara from VS Tennis Academy. I'm a PTR Level 2 certified tennis coach. I have 13 years of playing experience as well as 5,000 hours of coaching experience. And today we're going to go over the 3 deadliest tennis serving mistakes you could ever make on your serve that stop you from going from that 2-5 to the 4-0 and 4-5 level. Mistake number 3 is a lot of the times tossing the ball too high. Contrary to what your coach tells you a lot of the times. A lot of the coaches like to say toss the ball higher, when in reality tossing the ball higher makes you lose how much load you have. So today's video is pretty science-based. So there's been a lot of research done on the tennis serve, a lot more research compared to any other shot in tennis. So how you get power on the serve is usually how fast your racket accelerates from this position to this position, and how fast your hip goes from lowest point to highest point. So, thinking about those two, the second one, what happens when you toss the ball too high? If you toss the ball too high, you spend way too much time at the lowest position and then you lose your kinetic energy. What you want to actually happen is spend as little time in the lowest position as possible, which will help you explode and get more power in the hip. So if you see a lot of players like Ben Shelton, they spend 2 seconds in this position and they jump right out. So altogether, this is how serve would look with the toss that's too high. You're waiting, it's too high, you're waiting, and then you're going. And then a perfect toss, which would be here. So you toss, get down, and you explode right away. Altogether, if you spend as little time as possible in the low position, you're gonna get way more power and way more consistency. Okay, so tip number 2. Tip number 2 actually ties into the tip number 1, and all of these tips tie together throughout today's practice session, video, whatever you want to call it. So tip number 2 relates a lot to how long you spend down at the bottom in your toss. So tip number 2 is not engaging your hips. If you don't engage your hips, what's going to happen is you're going to lose power. As we know, most of the power on the serve actually comes from you engaging your hips thoroughly and fastly. So this is what happens in a lot of players that I see right now playing at the 2-5 level. They get here, they get in the low position, and that's it. They don't turn. Or they get here, and they hit like this, and then they turn after. So what you want to happen is your hip to go from the lowest position to the highest position fast, but not only that, your hip should be rotating this way, just like you're doing a forehand or a backhand. So your hip will be rotating into the ball this way. Again, this would be hip not rotating, and this will be your hip rotating into the ball. You get a lot more pop, a lot more power if your hip rotates into the ball. So mistake number 1 would actually be trying to pronate. If everything on your serve works perfectly well already, you're using this motion, you're rotating your hips into the ball, the pronation should be happening naturally. A lot of the pronation is actually just having the right grip and keeping your hand relaxed. If you're forcefully trying to pronate, first off, your hand is stiff, right? If your hand is stiff, you can't really pronate because your pronation happens from your hand being relaxed. So this motion only happens if your hand is relaxed. If your hand is stiff, it's happening way less naturally. So almost like my forehand tips video, if you take two fingers like this with the right grip and do this, the pronation happens naturally. This is all that happens. You don't need to do anything. But if you force it, it's just gonna be way slower of a serve and it's gonna go out because you're doing like this pretty much. Yeah, so if you're ever focusing on pronating, just forget about it and choose to focus on how fast your racket goes from this position to this position. This depends on how fast your serve goes, pretty much. So if your racket goes from this position to this position faster, your serve goes faster. So it's not just pronation, it's actually supination and pronation together in one motion. Again, all of these tips are related to Mark Kovac's videos, Mark Kovac's research. So you can go read on those things and know that they're science-based. And okay, let me give you one more tip, and this is a bonus tip actually. So bonus tip is using the right grip. A lot of the times players use a grip that's let's say too continental. They try to go here, or they use a hammer grip, which is impossible to pronate with. What you want to happen is you hold your fingers like this, fingers in front, and your knuckles go this way. And there's actually big variation in your continental grips. So your continental grip, your knuckle could be on this grip, or it could be a little more this way, or a little more this way. It's really personal preference, as long as it's on ridge number 2 or somewhere in the area. So don't try to keep the grip too continental, or, you know, of course not too eastern, but I am sure you know that not to hit with the eastern grip. But yeah, continental grip, just like the backhand grip from the backhand video. And yeah, that's how you're gonna make your serve go 100 miles an hour, and that's how you're gonna become a pro tennis player in the future, hopefully. I'm not promising you that. Anyways, thank you so much for watching my video. Please subscribe, comment down below about the video if you enjoyed it, or if you didn't enjoy it, honestly. Comment your bad comments. Like the video if you enjoyed it, dislike if you didn't like it, and thank you so much for watching. Watch my other videos over here, and have a good rest of your day.